it must be difficult to, Brenda, I can't imagine what it's like to cover such stories, even just listening to it. It's extremely moving, troubling, and we'll get further into this conversation with Bessie Nikozi, Social Protection Lead, Oxfam Kenya, and Ahmed Ibrahim, convener of the ASOL Humanitarian Network, Oxfam's partner in humanitarian projects in northern Kenya, and we'll be looking at the state of humanitarian support. But we put a pin in that conversation. First, I'm joined by Professor Karanja Njoroge, who is a board member of the Friends of Karura Forest, which is a community forest association. And a lot has been said in the last few weeks. There has been a transition to e-citizen.
Yes.
A departure from what has been happening prior. You protested. You said, I've seen you do a number of interviews.
Yes.
So you took issue with the move, saying there was no consultation?
Absolutely. We have been involved since 2009 as a community forest association. And we have worked very well with the Kenya Forest Service throughout the 15 years. I do not see why they could not consult us on a critical issue like this one, which takes away our finances into e-citizen. It should have been negotiated with us.
All right,
it cannot just be a command and control, because saving Karura Forest took a lot of money. We didn't ask it from the government. We did not go call the minister to help us raise those funds. We raised the funds to save Karura. Karura was gone. Karura was people's plots.
All right.
We took them to court at our expense. Kenya Forest Service didn't pay for those. So how do they then just all of a sudden present us with an order from tomorrow? They didn't even do that. They said something about, and we said, oh, why should we do that? Before we knew it, they took over. They physically came and threw us out.
All right.
So it just doesn't make sense. And unless people have an ulterior motive, partnerships of any side, whether formal, private, government, community, partnerships require caring.
Okay.
So you look at your partner, you see where you've come with them, and you engage them and work with them.
All right. Speaking of engagement, so we hosted on Tuesday the Chief Conservator of Forests, Alex Lemarkoko, and he said there have been consultations that have taken place since last year, but there has been resistance from FKF, and he says it is a directive that 179 forest stations have transitioned, have migrated. So his question then was, is this a public asset or is this a private asset?
It is both. The only reason why we are not part of the 179 stations that are earning peasant, they cannot do what we are doing, is because there is a community forest association legally appointed under the law, because the law allows all forests to be governed, managed through a participatory forest management arrangement. That is the law. The law hasn't changed, and each forest has a right to establish a CFA, a community forest association, that follows the law. So once you form that association, you then create a forest management plan. It is not KFS that creates a forest management plan. It is the CFA that organizes and creates a forest management plan. Then you present it to the Kenya Forest Service. Kenya Forest looks at it, critiques it, even suggests changes to it. And when we are all agreed, then you sign, it is signed off as the plan. A 5-year plan for the forest. And then that's not enough. Once you have the plan, then you prepare a forest management agreement, meaning you co-manage the execution of that plan between KFS and CFA. And I'm afraid he never told you those stories.
Okay, but what he said, according to the Forest Management Agreement you've spoken of, that there are joint obligations of the parties.
Exactly, yes.
And part of what he highlighted as having, essentially he accused FKF of breach of contract. Because you've talked about, what is this? You've talked about, so he says, this is what Section 13F says: the parties shall prepare a work plan and budget for each financial year for approval by the service. He says that has not happened. And certified accounts shall be presented annually to the service for review by the internal and external auditors as per the provisions of the Finance Management Act 2012. And he says that has not happened.
My mouth cannot say he's a liar. Maybe he doesn't know. Because the way we manage Karura is through something called a management plan. That management plan is actually signed by KFS. And we go into management of the plan, and it's managed through a joint forest management committee. 3 officials from KFS and 3 officials from the CFA. They meet regularly every month. Is he saying he doesn't know that? I don't know.
No, he says that the joint obligation, as I said, is that there will be an account jointly run, as you've stated a number of times, jointly run by the FKF,
exactly.
the parties, and KFS, approved by the service. Then he says, you know, there's a work plan and budget that is supposed to be approved
exactly.
by KFS and submitted certified accounts. So you're saying that has happened?
It always happened. There is no money that leaves. By the way, we have a joint account. They must sign a check. That check must be signed by the CFA and the KFS in order for that money to be released. So I can't understand why he's saying we don't play ball. I mean, how have we been able to manage the affairs of this forest all this time? KFS has been part and parcel of doing everything we have done. There is none of the decisions that do not go through the Joint Forest Management Committee, which he has appointed people to sit in.
Okay. And what do you make of the argument? Because you say Karura is both a public and private asset. But he says this is a public asset and therefore it must be subjected to the Auditor General.
We have no problem.
Therefore, he says these monies must be collected by a government agency.
That is not what is in our agreement. We have a management agreement with them. So did he realize that last week? 2 weeks ago, when KFS signed our management agreement, that should have been the case. That was not the case from 2009 when we took over. That forest, by the way, was gone. And this is important for Kenyans to know. There was no Karura forest. Karura forest had been divvied up as plots, taken over by thieves, taken over by rapists and killers. By the time we came in, we were salvaging nothing. In fact, I recall walking into the then director of Kenya Forest Service, they didn't call them CCF then, and Mr. Bogwa told me, and he's still alive, he told me, I don't know how you are going to do this because there are titles issued in this forest by the government. And I don't know how you'll be able to recover that. I said, please give us a chance. We'll fight them whichever way. I really, really thank those people who stuck with us because we raised money from the public, the private sector, banks, East African breweries, and I'm mentioning them because they were big giver, and all others who did that, and we saved Karura. Now that it's saved and making money, mouths have started melting with saliva. And they are now trying to get us to accept methods that will not ensure us to continue doing what we have always done for Karura.
All right. You speak of grabbed land within the forest.
Yeah, it was grabbed, yes.
So he made the case that the Kenya Forest Management Act, Section 34, makes it, and I quote, practically impossible to grab a forest in this Kenya.
Oh my goodness. Why did I go to court for 5 years? Between 2013 and 2019, I was in court. We were in court as the CFA, fighting a company called York Holdings Limited, registered in British Virgin Island, which had a title. I think our CCF doesn't know a lot of history of Karura. Okay. If he doesn't know that case, then he most likely doesn't know. And that was not the only landowner. There were other landowners who were demanding access. And I don't want to name them here, but I can name the one who took us to court. Okay. But there was a line of people who we kept talking to and saying, don't go to court, listen to what they... And sure enough, Justice Mombi Ngogi ruled in June of 2019 that there is no land belonging to a private company in Karura. That is what saved us. Okay. It was not KFS who went to fight for it. It was us. It was the community. And that community still believes that there is a chance to save Karura. And Karura can degenerate very, very quickly. In the manner that they are now trying to manage it, it can be decided to go back to what it was before.
All right.
We are trying to salvage that.
So you're back in court now. You're back in court over this directive?
Well, exactly, because the directive just doesn't make sense.
All right. Lastly, some other very heavy accusations were made, and I want you to address that in parting. No. So he said there has been fraudulent financial practice involving public funds collected by FKF, manipulation and misrepresentation of surplus revenue reported by FKF, willful non-disclosure of financial records suggesting bad faith, and I already spoke about the failure to submit work plans, absence of financial statements, bank balances, and internal financial systems. Very heavy allegations. And he says this is the result of an audit undertaken by the Ministry of Environment.
The Ministry of Environment never audited us. I will repeat that again. An audit does not become an audit because someone sat in their office and wrote some literature. You appear to the auditee as, you tell us we want this document, we want this document, we want this account, and by the way, the account is a joint account. If we did something wrong, then KFS must have done something wrong because we both signed the expenditures from that account. So we never saw anybody from the ministry. So I guess you have to ask the ministry, how did they audit us without talking to us, without coming to our office, without picking documents from us? Which auditor in Kenya will approve an audit that the auditee never participated? It doesn't matter.
Especially if you consider that it stated that you didn't submit certified accounts.
But I am also worried about his besmirching us as people who are misusing or whatever. Let him produce one letter. He's the CCF. Produce one letter of concern about what we are doing. Because you don't wake up one day and accuse us of historical problems of months and months. It is a time we asked our government officers to sober up and approach matters like this with the seriousness it deserves. You just don't go saying that, oh, they did this, they did that. Let them give you a letter that says, we wrote to them on this day questioning this amount of money, or we have never seen one. These guys have been friends with us. Let me tell you that we have spent more than, for KFS, since 2019, we have spent 115 million supporting their various projects. Are those the projects he's saying we have misused? 118 million has been spent since 2019. And with the knowledge of the Kenya Forest Service because they have requested them. They request us to give them money to do a field, athletics field, football field, basketball field, helicopter pad, toilets, houses. We have done 26 apartments in the KFS headquarters.
Is that for staff?
For their staff. And we do it so where is the money spent that they're talking we've misused? Let me tell you, and that is why we get very frustrated. I have never taken a shilling. And if Lemakoko can give you one note of saying Karanja received 500 shillings pro bono or whatever it is, and all my board members have sworn to only give their services free. The only people who get paid are the people we hire, our staff, our whatever. But the board members never take any money from the forest. That's how we saw to that.
Okay.
KFS, on the other hand, whenever they come for a management meeting, they require sitting allowance. KFS. What I'm saying is that it is laughable that we'd be sitting here talking about these things. He has 175 forest stations. Let him tell you one forest station that can raise even half of this money that they have spent from us, 115 that has gone to KFS. Ours is a very small forest of only 1,000 hectares, which had been completely given up. It was a den of thieves. Bodies were being collected. By the way, do you know, when we fenced, from the time we fenced to about 6 months, 9 months after, we kept discovering skeletons of people killed and dumped there. It's excruciating pain that the people of Runda, Muthaiga, Gigiri, Ridgeways, all these people came together to save that ecosystem. And instead of being grateful, it seems like this government, through KFS, is just tarnishing us.
Okay.
It's so sad.
All right, so we will have to put a pin in the pause the conversation for now because there are lots of other questions.
Thank you.
Have your staff been able to access the forest?
No.
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 Okay. So unfortunately, because of time, I will have to conclude it here. But we will make an opportunity to pick up the conversation as the situation develops, but you have moved to court. It's been certified as urgent. So we are also keeping an eye on that court process. We've had in the studio with us Professor Karanja Njoroge, who is a board member of the FKF, not Football Kenya Federation, but the Friends of
Karura Forest,
a community forest association. We take a break, but on the other side, as promised, following that report by Brenda Wanga, you were as moved as I was watching it. We'll be joined by staff from Oxfam and representatives of ASALS as we look at the state of humanitarian support.
Thank you.